Hi, I'm Simon with AppliancePartsPros.com. Today we're going to show you how to repair your appliance. Are you ready? Remember, anytime you work on your appliance, make sure it's unplugged or the circuit breakers are off so there's no chance of electrocution. Also, make sure you turn off the water supply to the washer. In this video, we'll show you how to replace the spider arm in the Samsung washer. It's going to be a very easy repair. Should only take a few minutes to show you how to do it. For this job, we're going to need a plastic mallet, Phillips and a flat-blade screwdriver, a small flat-blade screwdriver, pair of pliers, pair of side cutters, a zip tie, some penetrating oil. We need a heat gun, and then we need the socket wrench with a couple of extensions and then 19, 13, and 10 millimeters heads. Also, I highly recommend you to get 6 of those bolts, and we will understand why if you'll watch the video to the end. The part number for that is DC60-40137A as in apple. When you open up the package, you're going to get a new spider arm. The spider arm assembly is mounted at the back of the inner basket. It supports the basket and transfers the rotation from the motor. A broken spider arm could cause excessive vibration, noise, and even smoke from a burning door boot seal, and in some cases, no spinning. If the spider arm is not replaced right away, the problem will expand and more parts will have to be replaced. Now I'm going to use these blocks to support the washer. Place towel on the top so it wouldn't scratch the washer. And then I'm going to tilt it on this side. And now I'm going to use the pliers and I'm going to squeeze this little clip here and push it in. And now I'm going to place the washer back on its feet. And I can remove this. We need to remove the top panel. That's held in place with the 2 screws here. I'm using a Phillips screwdriver. Taking them out. Now I'm going to pull this top back and I'm going to lift it off. Next, open the door. All right, now I'm going to remove this spring that holds the outer boot. I'm going to peel this a little bit up and using a flat-blade screwdriver, I'm going to pry this clamp off. And next I'm going to take this boot off the front lip. I'm going to tack it in. Out of the way. I'm taking out 3 screws that holds the door switch assembly. And it's a Phillips screwdriver I'm using. Next we're going to pull out the dispenser drawer. And we have to push this tab and we're going to remove it completely. Next we need to remove the 3 screws here that holds the dispenser housing, and we're going to slide it back. And it's a Phillips screwdriver I'm using. Next I'm going to free these 2 hoses from the dispenser housing. Now I'm going to slide this dispenser housing back. So, and put it down out of the way. Now we're going to remove this control panel. We need to pull up and forward those clips. So, start with a corner. And I'm going to work this out. Yep. Now I'm going to take this couple of plugs apart press the locking tab and pull it apart. Number 1 and number 2. I'm going to take it out. Next, we're going to open this drain filter door. I'm going to use the flathead screwdriver. Going to pry this open. And next step would be pulling this little drain hose out of the clamp. And then we're going to free this housing. 2 clamps on the sides. Using a flathead screwdriver, I'm going to open that tab and I'm going to pull the frame out, the housing. And the same thing on this side. And we're going to remove this housing out. Alright, we're going to tilt the washer back, so I'm putting the support box here at the back. And then we're going to place it on the box. Be careful, it's heavy. I'm going to use a Phillips screwdriver and taking out the 3 screws that holds the front panel at the bottom. Let's place the washer on its feet. Careful, it's heavy. Support it. Next, we need to remove these 4 screws on the top of the front panel. I'm using a Phillips screwdriver. Alright, now I'm going to lift this front panel up slightly and then remove it. Let's open the door, and I suggest you to put the gloves on for this particular operation. I'm grabbing that front panel from inside with one hand and holding this top brace and pull up, because we have these 2 tabs that needs to be disengaged. Don't go too far with this front panel. We've got the hose connected to it, so we need to pull it out from the 2 retainers. Alright, I'm gonna pull this hose from this 1 and the 2 retainers. Now we can tilt it down and lift it up away from the hinges. Now we're going to disconnect these 3 hoses and pull out this light. Using a pliers, I'm going to squeeze and move up the clamp. And same thing here. And I'm going to move this wing clamp. I'm going to pull out this light. Okay. Then we're going to disconnect the hoses. We're going to remove this hose from the clamp at the back. And now we're going to pull the hose off. And put it aside, out of the way. Next, we're going to free this harness and disconnect the plug. I'm going to use the pliers and squeeze this tab and pull it out. Next, I'm going to disconnect this plug, press down on the locking tab and separate them. I'm going to free it from this retainer. And then I'm going to free it from this retainer. That's a twister. We're going to untwist it, drop it down. Then I go here to this retainer, remove it from here, and then I have another twister down here. We're going to open that and free the harness. Alright, next we're going to remove this brace. I'm going to use the Phillips screwdriver. Going to take out 2 screws that hold the brace to the cabinet. And then we can remove the brace. Next, I'm going to release this harness from the retainer. Only this one with a larger plug. Pull it through the hole here. Okay, now we're going to take this one out from the clamp here. And put it outside, out of the way. We need to remove 6 screws that holds the front brace. I'm going to use a Phillips screwdriver. The old Phillips screws. Now I'm going to lift off the brace. I'm going to remove this air pressure hose from the pressure switch. First I'm going to slide down the clamp. I'm going to pull out the hose. Now I'm going to secure the door switch assembly to the outside of the cabinet. I don't want to break it. Well, we're going to take out the tub. Alright. Our next task would be removing these upper and lower counterweights. Using a 13mm socket wrench, we're going to take those 3 bolts on the top out. And at this point, I would like to put my gloves on. Just hold on to this counterweight and grab it and remove it. It's heavy, so be prepared. And now we're going to go to the bottom one. We're using the same tools. Hold on. Be careful. Don't hurt yourself. Pull it out. And then I can take it away. We need to take off this rear access panel. 2 Phillips screws. I'm using a Phillips screwdriver. Okay, now we can remove this access panel by pushing it up. And then we're going to take out the bottom. I'm going to slide it down and release the top. We're going to remove this bolt, which is 19mm. Then we're going to pull off the rotor. And then we're going to take out the stator. So let's do it step by step. I'm using a 19mm socket wrench. As you can see, it's a heavy duty, the same as I used on the counterweights, and a plastic mallet. There's a few different techniques how we can lose this bolt, but I'm using this one. So we install it and ready for sharp knock. And it's loose. Now I'm going to actually pull the rotor off. Remember, it's a sharp edges here, so definitely gloves. And also, when you remove it, remember there's magnets inside, so it's kind of sucking to the stator. So be careful, don't pinch your fingertips. Side to side and pull at the same time. We don't have to remove the stator for what we're doing, but I give you 2 reasons why I recommend to do that and why I am doing it. First of all, the less weight on the tub you have when you pull it out is much better on your back. And the second one, if you take it out and stash it somewhere safely, you're not going to damage it. So next we're going to take out the stator. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 10mm bolts. I'm using the socket wrench with a 10mm head on it. And we're going to start taking them out. Kind of hold on to the stator. And I'm going to pull it off slowly. Remember, it has a couple of plugs here, so harness is connected to it. So I'm going to be carefully turning over, and I'll show you. We're going to remove these plugs. I'm going to squeeze this two sides and pull the plug. All right, so I'm going to press in the tab at the bottom and pull the plug out. I'm going to take it somewhere where it's safe, don't damage it. And next we're going to cut the zip tie. I'm using a side cutters. Clamp. Oops. Pull this out, and we're going to disconnect this plug. Press down on that locking tab and pull it apart. I'm going to let it down, hang down. Next I'm using a Phillips screwdriver. Going to take out this screw with the ground wire. Let it hang, and then one more screw right there. It's a Phillips screw again. Then we're gonna drop down this mounting bracket. Lift it up and take this out. We're gonna let it hang down. So now we're here at the front bottom of the washer, and we're going to disconnect these wires from the heater, and then this plug. Then we're going to drop down this air dome. So I'm going to open that flapper, and using the pliers, I'm going to pull down these wires from the terminals. The black, then the green, and then the red. Next I'm going to disconnect this plug. There's the locking tab right there in the middle. I'll push it in and pull the plug apart. Next we're going to remove this bracket that holds the harness. It's very simple. I'm going to just push it down. Comes off easily. I'm going to place it out of the way. So our next step would be disconnecting these two hoses from the pump assembly. But before doing that, we need to make sure there's no water in the pump, or we're going to face small Niagara Falls. So we're going to drain the water from this hose by pulling this off and draining into the container. Then we're going to unscrew this filter. That's a drain pump filter, and if you have a wet shop vac, it would be perfect. You can suck out the water while you're unscrewing it. If you don't, then lots of towels and washing the floors. But that's better than leaking from inside on the bottom of the washer here. And even then, after we drain the water from the pump filter, we're still going to place a towel there on the vac, because it's going to be probably a few drops left. Like after we put the towel, we're ready to remove the hoses. I'm going to squeeze this clamp, move it up, and the hose up. And the same thing here. If you can't, use the pliers. Pull this off. Alright. Now we can remove the towel. Now we're going to remove the shock absorber from the bracket on the top. And I'm going to use the 13mm socket wrench. Unscrew this bolt. And I'm going to remove that bolt out. Alright. And I'm going to pull this out of the joint. Push it down and to the side, out of the way here. I'm going to remove this bolt, and I'm going to disconnect this shock absorber. I'm using the same 13mm socket wrench. I'm going to pull this out of the socket. I'm going to push it aside, out of the way. Go to the back of the washer Now I'm going to use the Phillips screwdriver, take out this couple of screws that hold the control board assembly. All right, next step would be untwisting this wire clamp and taking out this harness. And now I'm gonna release the second clip here. And I'm gonna take out the harness from there. And we're gonna remove it from inside the cabinet. Slide it to the right. And now we can pull it out. Remove it from the cabinet. And put it outside so the tub is not going to crush anything here. Now we need to remove this bottom counterweight, and it held in place by two 13mm bolts. So I'm using a socket wrench with extension. 13mm head. I'm gonna unscrew them. Okay, one is out and one to go. At this point I would like to install this wooden block underneath of the counterweight to support it. It will be kind of hard to hold it at the same time and taking the bolts out, so it would not slam down. Alright, I'm going to take out the second bolt. Alright, be careful. Do not put your fingers near the counterweight because it's going to go down. Alright, second bolt out. I'm going to place the counterweight down on the block of wood. And now we're going to slide it out. Now I can remove the rear shock absorbers. I'm using the same 13mm socket wrench with a long extension. And lift up on the tub. I'm going to use that socket wrench through this hole. Place it on the bolt. And we're going to unscrew it, joining it counterclockwise. And now we're going to press this shock absorber down and remove it from the socket. Okay, it's out. I helped lifting up the tub with this socket wrench. You can use anything you want as long as it works. And now we're going to remove this left rear shock absorber. I'm using the same 13mm socket wrench with a long extension. I'm going to lift up on the top, install the socket wrench, and I'm going to unscrew that bolt. There you go. And now we're going to pull down on the shock absorber to get it out from this socket on the top. Okay. Now we're at the top of the washer. Next I'm going to remove this vent hose from the tub. Squeeze this clamp, move it up, and then remove the hose. Now I'm going to move this dispenser housing out of the way. And then same thing we're going to do with this hose clamp. We're going to squeeze it and move it up. And remove the hose from the tub. Now I'm going to move the whole thing out of the way. And I'm going to pull this hose out of the way also. Clear the tub out. I'm going to use a small flathead screwdriver and press it down here on the clip so we can open that lock. That's a spring safety lock. Without taking it out, we cannot remove the spring. Alright, now I need to free this clip here using a small flathead screwdriver. I'm going to pull and press this tab in. And same thing on the opposite side. I'm going to open it and remove it. So with this hanging down, we can take this lock out with the same small flat blade screwdriver. Press down on the tab and remove this lock. Now when the top is relatively light, we can remove that springs one at a time. Pull up and take it out of this bracket. Slowly let it down, slowly. Remember, we have a block of wood there at the bottom. And we can remove the spring. At this moment, I would like to install this towel on the top of the pump assembly. Make a little cushion here, safety cushion. Alright. Alright, I'm going to remove this suspension spring. I'm going to use this little handle. I'm going to pull it up and to the side towards me and release the spring. Slowly put it down, and then I'm going to take out the spring. So we're going to lift out this top assembly and place it on those two boxes. All right. So our next task we're facing is separating the front and the rear outer shells. They are joined together with this 10mm bolts that goes all around, and for that purpose I'm using a same socket wrench, only 10mm head. Next we're going to remove this clamp, squeeze it and put it down along the hose, and then we're going to disconnect this top sump hose from the pressure dome. Alright, now I'm going to separate the halves. Grab it here and at the bottom, pull it up, and we're going to grab it on the opposite side and slide it up. Okay, now we're facing a lottery. We're going to try to take out the inner tub from the shell from the bearings at the bottom. We probably have a 50-50 chance, but first I'm going to try to shake it side to side as much as possible. And then I'm going to give it a lift. Up! Well, we got lucky. So I'm going to remove it out. If the inner tub won't come out easily, then this is what we need to do. First of all, we need to have a higher support boxes. So because this is much taller than it would be if it would be laying flat. Now we have the tub upside down. And in my case, we already had this loose, so the inner tub slide out by itself. But in case if it's still going to be here, and you'll see the shaft sticking out approximately 1.5 inches, 2 inches, then I'm going to use the rubber mallet or plastic mallet. Do not use metal. Or if you use metal, put a wooden plank on the top of the shaft. And then just hammer it out. So this will slide out. Then we can remove this outer shell. Here we see the spider arm, and it's held in place by 6 bolts, 2, 2, and 2. And in my experience, they all frozen up there, so we need to use the heat gun to try to loosen up those bolts. It takes more than a second, so be patient. Maybe a couple of minutes for each side. And now, using a 10mm socket wrench, I'm going to break them loose and take them out. Do not apply too much power. Slowly. Generally, it's up to you. You can break them off, all of them, and use new bolts that you'll have to purchase separately. or you can spend time and play with each of them. Try to save it. I go opposite way. And it broke. Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we still have 4 more screws, or should I say bolts, to take out or to break out. So, same procedure. Heat gun. So, I'm going to use some penetrating oil. I'm going to put it on the top and here. And continue. And it's going to break. Boom. And I sprayed it before with this penetrating oil. I'm going to use heat gun a little bit. Number 6. Here you are. Then I'm going to use the same penetrating oil. I'm going to spray a little bit here on the top where this touching, the spider arm touching the rim. And then inside, don't go deep in, just on the surface here. Same thing on the other ones. So let it soak. Give it a minute. I'm going to use this plastic mallet, and I'm going to try to break the loose all these 3 joints. And the sideways. Okay, I'm going to put it on the side, and I use the screwdriver and the mallet, and we're going to punch it out. Rotate that inner tub to the next joint. Same thing, flat blade screwdriver and the mallet. And one more time. Glory, glory, hallelujah. This is the old spider arm next to the new one. If you don't have this part, you can get it from appliancepartspros.com. And next I'm going to clean these places where the spider arm connects to the tub using soap. Obviously you can clean the whole surface here. Alright, now I'm going to install the new spider arm. I'm going to match the holes. I'm going to use the mallet to adjust a little bit the spider arm. Alright, now we can install the new bolts. Alright, now we have all these brand new bolts, and we're going to install one in each branch of the arm, just one hole, and I'm going to start it manually, just a few turns. Alright, now I'm going to tighten them using that 10mm socket wrench. I'm going to tighten it real tight, just a little snag there. And the second bolts. Now we're going to tighten them all. Please do not get excited and do not over tighten them because you may break them all. Alright, after we set up our support station, I'm going to bring and place down this rear half of the outer tub, and then we're going to install the inner tub. There's a brand spanking new spider arm. Alright, now we're gonna install this front half. The heater goes into the bracket right in there at the bottom. And now we're gonna match all the holes. Next would be installing all the screws. Well, we're going to start with placing 4 bolts, crisscross. Okay, number 3 and number 4. I'm going to tighten them. All right, so we're going to start tightening them from one side, and now we're going to tighten the opposite bolt. Alright, now we're gonna install all the screws and tighten them. Next, we're going to connect the hose to the air pressure dome. Slide it on, this little tongue goes into the cutout, and then we're going to squeeze and slide up the clamp. Alright, now I'm going to place it back into the cabinet. I'll lift it up slowly, guys, it's heavy. Take your time. And place it on the wooden block at the bottom. Now we're ready to install the suspension springs. That will be the first one. I'm going to place this hand into this opening. Alright, we're lifting up the tub. I'm using my second hand and holding it with this little handle here. It's heavy. You might need a second person. Slowly put it down. Alright, now we're going to lock that spring mount. Push it in. Now we're going to install the second spring. I'm going to insert it into this opening, turn it up, and I'm going to pull it up and install into this bracket. Alright, now we're going to lock the spring. Place this lock in, push it in. And we're going to install this wire harness holder back in. And now we can remove the towel, we don't need it anymore. Alright, let's place this hose on the top, and then the soap dispenser goes back. Install the hose on, push it down, and then I'm going to secure it with this clamp. Now I'm going to insert this pin on the dispenser housing into the cutout on the side so it would stay in one place. And now we can continue putting it together. Well, it's time to place this vent hose on. We have a cutout here on the back. It goes over the rib, same rib as here in front, only it's on the back. And now we're going to install the clamp. To secure it. Now I can remove this wooden block. Now I'm going to install this shock absorber into the socket on the tub. Pull it up. Okay, let's install the bolt. And now I can tighten it. Now I'm ready to install this right side shock absorber. I'm going to install into the socket, push it in, and match the holes. Then the bolt goes in, and now we can tighten it with this same 13mm socket wrench. I'm going to place that wooden block again underneath of the tub. Place the counterweight in on that block of wood, slide it, and I'm going to turn it and place it onto the pins. There are 2 pins. So the holes will go on the pins. And now I'm going to install the bolts. I'm going to place it in. And tighten manually. And I'm going to use this 13mm socket wrench. And I'm going to tighten it. Now we can remove this wooden block. It serves its purpose. Alright, now we're going to install the this control board assembly onto the cabinet, put it inside, and we're going to slide these two tabs into the cutout in the center of this horizontal slide. Push it down and I'm going to slide it to the left. These holes should match. And now we can secure it with a couple of screws using a Phillips screwdriver. Then I'm going to install the harness into the clips inside here. Lock it. And the second one. Alright, now we're going to place this last clip in. Alright, now the harness is secured. And I connect this shock absorber to the tub. Put it into the socket here. And put the bolt back in. Let's install this shock absorber in. And extend it and place it into the socket. Align the holes, same procedure. I'm going to install the bolt. And using a 13mm socket wrench, I'm going to tighten it. Let's connect this couple of hoses back to the pump assembly. First we're going to do this. And as you can see, we have a little cut here that will fit over that rib. Push it on. And then I'm going to squeeze the clamp, move it up. Same thing here. See this cut here is going to go over the rib at the bottom. And I'm going to squeeze the clamp and push down the hose. Then we can release the clamp. And I'm going to move it down a little bit. Alright. And now we're going to install this harness and the bracket back on. And this clip will lock over the tube, and this pin goes into this opening in the bottom. Now I'm going to connect this plug. Make sure it's locked. And then we're going to connect the heater. The red one, the green one in the middle, and the black here on the right. And then we're going to close that flapper door. And now I'm going to mount the bracket back onto the tub. This little L-shaped tab goes into this cutout. And I'm going to push it in. Now we're going to secure it with a Phillips screw. And next we're going to secure this ground wire. And it's again a Phillips screw using a Phillips screwdriver. Alright, I'm going to put the zip tie around that bracket here. Hold it, and we're going to place the plug in, push it in there, and we're going to secure it with a zip tie. Alright, now we're going to bring in the stator. I'm going to connect the plugs. That goes in here. and it goes in here. We've got 1, 2, and 3 pilot pins here, and we have 3 holes on the stator. So we're gonna match them. Like that. And then we're gonna secure the stator with the 6 bolts. All right, now I'm gonna tighten them up. They're supposed to be 10 millimeters, unless you switch them with something else. Mine are. So I'm going to use the 10 millimeter socket wrench. And I'm going to tighten it. Don't tighten the first bolt yet. We're gonna do a little more tightening. Okay, not the second one either. So we're gonna tighten this one and this one. Don't over tighten it. You don't need to. And then next pair. And the first one. Okay. All right, it's time to place the rotor back onto the shaft. So position it. Do not put your fingertips here behind that edge. Hold it from the sides. Hold it firm because it's going to suck in. Turn it kind of and then shake it side to side. As you can see, it's placed totally to the end of the shaft here. Now I'm going to install that bolt to secure the rotor. Go manually as far as you can do. Then we're going to use this 19 millimeter socket wrench. Tighten it, hold on to the rotor. And then we're going to use the same mallet and we're going to tighten the bolt. Make sure you hold it tight and sharp knock. And one more time. Right, so now we're going to install this panel. I'm going to slide in the top tabs, push it up, and then we're going to install the bottom tabs and push down the panel so the bottom also will lock. And now we can secure the panel. There's a couple of screws, and I'm using a Phillips screwdriver. Alright, so I'm going to bring down one of the counterweights. They are identical, so don't worry about mixing them around. And then I'm going to slide the counterweight on this 2 posts. Hold on to it. And then we can secure it with the bolts. And now I'm going to use this 13 millimeter socket wrench. And we're going to tighten the bolts. All right, now we're going to move to the upper portion. The same thing, we're going to hang it on these 2 posts first. Hold on to it. And I'm going to secure it with the bolts. And it's the same size, 13 millimeters. Now I'd like to remove this door switch assembly from the cabinet and pull out the tape and let it down here. Now I'm going to install the pressure hose back onto the pressure switch. Slide it on, and I'm going to squeeze and move that clamp on. All right, now I'm going to install these front brace onto the cabinet. So we have two tabs on each side that goes into the cutouts into the cabinet. So I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to install it. All right, now all four in, and we're going to secure it with the 6 Phillips screws. Let's install this harness into this clip here. And next we're going to pull the wire through the opening and install it into the front retainer. Okay, now we can install the brace, the top brace. I'm going to place this 2 tabs into the 2 cutouts at the back here. Slide it in. I'm going to lower down the front. And we have another cutout here and another tab here. And now we have the holes matching. And we're going to secure it with the couple of screws. I'm using a Phillips screwdriver because it's a Phillips screws. Now we're going to place the harness into the retainers. So we have a bunch of them here. That's a twister here. That's what I call it. Close it. And I'm going to move on to this one. Push it in. Then I'm going to connect this one. It's again a twister. All right, I'm going to plug this in. And I'm going to lock this retainer to the brace. Next, we're going to connect the hoses and the light to this seal. I'm going to place just a bit of soap on each of the tubes here, and a little bit on the light too. Don't get excited, just a little bit. And I'm going to slide this hose and this. And I'm going to place the light in. On the light, you can see the flat piece here on the top. And if you look at the seal, we'll have it here, right there. So it has to go in like this. And the last one. And I'm going to use pliers. I'm going to squeeze the clamps, slide them down, secure the connections. This we can do without the pliers. We're going to place this tube into the clip here behind that front brace. All right, I'm going to bring in and install the front panel. I'm going to place 3 cutouts at the bottom over the 3 hinges. Need to go under the pump filter and then push it down and bring it up. Then we need to install this hose into the clamps. There's 2 of them. And now we can bring it up. Make sure that the door switch assembly is not on the way. And then we push it in. Now we're going to secure this front panel to the cabinet with 4 screws. It's a Phillips screwdriver at work. You are watching. All right, we're going to tilt the washer back on the box. Be careful, it's heavy. Now I'm going to secure this front panel at the bottom with 3 screws. I'm using a Phillips screwdriver. Let's place the washer on its feet. Careful, it's heavy. support it. And we can take out this box. And let's pull this hose out. And I'm going to put it into this opening here. And I'm going to slide in the housing. And push it in. And those clips on the side lock. Then I'm going to install this hose into the clip on the top. And we can close the door. Alright, I'm going to bring the control panel assembly, and I'm going to place the bottom clips into these cutouts, and we're going to connect the two plugs, and then we can install this panel back on. Make sure it's good, not coming apart. Bring it forward, down. All right, now we can install the dispenser housing. We have a slot here, and this plastic post goes in, and I'm gonna pull it forward. And this clip has to go over this metal brace. Also, we need to install the inside, lift it up, and I'm going to push it in. All right. Now we're going to install this two hoses back onto the dispenser housing. Simply squeeze it in. And now we're going to secure the dispenser housing. I have 3 screws. I'm using a Phillips screwdriver. Now we can install this dispenser drawer. Slide in on the top, and then we're going to press this lock tab and slide it completely in. All right, I'm going to open the door, and next we are going to install this door switch assembly. I'm going to fish it out. I'm going to put it into these holes. All right, and we need to secure it with 3 screws. It's Phillips screws. Using a Phillips screwdriver. All right, so we're gonna put this seal over this front lip, peel it, and place it over the edge. You gotta be sure that it's going in correctly. Take your time. This is very important. All right, next we're going to put this retainer spring. If you remember that the actual spring was here at about 9 o'clock. I'm going to place this clamp into the groove on the top and on the side. And I'm going to slide this flathead screwdriver in here. That's about between 5 and 6 o'clock. And I'm going to grab that spring here and pull down on it hard. And we're going to install that clamp into the groove. Make sure it's in properly, and then you can pull on the seal hard. All right, pass the test, so we can close the door. Now we're going to install the top back on. I'm going to place it down a couple of inches away from the control panel. Make sure it's straight. And I'm going to slide it forward so the front will lock. Now we're going to secure the top panel to the cabinet with a couple of screws using a Phillips screwdriver. Turn on the water, plug the washer in and run it to check if it works properly and there's no leaks. Thank you for being a part of another successful repair brought to you by AppliancePartsPros.com. For any of your future appliance repair projects, please check out our other videos available on our site, on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Instagram.